Once upon a time, in a desert, carved by wind and silence, I'd lived in a forgotten village. And there, I never knew I was a prince, because love, bread, and sky were enough to crown a soul. And the silence, oh, the silence, was louder than joy. And I still return to that silence every time my heart breaks. The village that raised my spirit. There was a village far from stories, too small for maps, too honest for frame. No palaces, no golden gates, only hearts and heartbeats, only the prayers of mothers rising with the heat. We lived not for the world, but for the moment. Days, they were slow, like the shadows of cloud drifting across empty sand. Mornings began with the sun that didn't rise. It entered like a ruler, with fire in its spread and silence in its eyes. I known the earth would hum a quiet that could pierce your bones. Even the trees would stop moving. Even the birds would hold their tongues. The wind didn't blow, it whispered with heat. And in that heat, families would gather beneath mud walls. Windows closed, doors cracked, and inside, on flat stones, warmed by flame, bread was born from wheat, ancient, holy. I remember the hands that made it, dark from the sun, soft from kindness, and the smell, sweet smoke and grain. And then the honey, drizzled slow, golden, thick, poured like mercy onto the bread. It wasn't a meal. It was a memory you could eat. No one spoke. It was the hour of stillness. The times when time paused. Adults would drift into sleeps, their mind full of the heat, their bellies warm with God's gift. And then he would rise, the children, barefoot, wild, unseen, feeded and run, escaped into a world built only for us, a secret kingdom carved not by hands but by time. The sand would burn, but we knew where to walk, jumping from shadow to shadow like desert foxes. Our target always the same, the magical canal. It wasn't big, but to us, it was an ocean of stories. Then a ribbon, but deep as the sky. A canal that caught the sun like a mirror and changed color as the sun moved across heaven. Some days it was sapphire, other days it burned orange at noon. By sunset, it turned golden, so golden it felt like walking into a dream. And on its edge, date trees, tall, wise, unbothered by the world. Their shade was a secret mosque. Their silence bowed, and the breeze whispered verses. The earth near the canal, cool, smooth, soft, a holy kind of soil. We would press our faces to it, let it erase the heat from our cheeks. We played there not with toys, but with imagination. The water became the sea, the trees became giants, and the sun became a friend who never scolded. When the sun began to leave us, we stayed there for hours, time didn't chase us, because in that hidden world, clocks had no permissions, and slowly the sun began to bow behind the dunes. Its light would soften, no fade, but melt. Golden became amber, amber turned to rose, and soon the canal became a mirror of fire, a stream of melted jewels. We would sit there, knees in the water, watching the light shimmer like it was alive. The surface rippled, but what we saw was peace. What we felt was nothing, and everything. Sometimes we splashed, laughed, with mouths wide open. Other times we simply stared at a world too beautiful for words, at a moment too perfect to repeat. No one told us to be quiet, but silence would fall, soft and respectful, as if even the wind didn't want to interrupt the sun's goodbye. And that's when we felt it, the whisper of something bigger than us. We didn't know the word for divine, but we knew that place was touched by it. The air cooled like a mother's breath. The trees sighed, as if they, too, were tired, and the earth remembered our names. We were not just children, we were the poems of that place, living verses, dancing in sunlight and sand. Sometimes we picked dates that fell in the breeze, sticky and sweet, and wiped our hands on our shirts, as if we could erase the joy that easily. Other days, we dug holes in the sand, built forts, pretended we were warriors, protector of the canal, keepers of the shade. But the truth is, that place protected us. When the crown world grew too loud, that world, our secret desert dream, hand us like a lullaby, and I still hear it in the pauses between my breaths. Then came to call of evening, not the adhan, not the clock, but something older, a shift in the sky stone, a deepening of color, a promise that night was near. That's when we would run back, not from fear, but because the day had gently closed its door. Bare feet, thumping on warm sand, hands sticky with canal water, hairs filled with dust, and hearts filled with something we didn't yet call memory. But by the time we reached the village, smoke would rise from chimneys again, faint like breath, and inside, that same sacred meal awaited. Beat bread, fresh and cracked from stone, still warm, still soft, and honey, our desert, our treasure, our inheritance. I remember how my mother's hand looked, carrying the bread on a clay plate. She wouldn't speak. She would just place it before me and smile, the kind of smile that makes you believe heaven is real. The first bite always stirs the world. I can still taste it, more than taste. I can feel it, the warmth, the sweetness, the love baked into it. That bread wasn't food. It was forgiveness. It was care. It was everything a child needs and doesn't yet understand. We ate quietly, feet dusty, clothes half wet, eyes glowing, and then sleep would take us, not with lullabies, but with the soft hum of night outside our windows, the wind gently knocking like a friend who never leaves. The leaving that didn't happen all at once, but nothing stays, not even the stillness of that village, not even the taste of bread on your tongue. Time doesn't ask you permission when it begins to move. I grew taller, my voice changed, my hands grew restless, and the world outside the dunes began to call louder, with promises of names, titles, power, a life I never asked for. The desert didn't stop me. It didn't beg me to stay. It simply watched, like it always did. Silent, eternal, forgiving. I remember the first day I left for good. No one cried. There were no grand goodbyes, just my shadow growing longer behind me, as if even it didn't want to follow. I walked into the world of marble and mirrors, of echoing halls and perfect clothing, but nothing smelled like wheat, nothing tasted like honey. They called me Your Highness, but I had never felt smaller. They praised my silence, but they didn't know my silence belonged to the desert, not to the throne. And in their deepest nights, when the chandeliers flickered above my head, I would lie awake and try to hear the rain from back home, but all I heard was emptiness. I would dream of the canal, that shimmering thread of wonder. I dream of my mother's hands, of date trees swaying in gold, of the sun melting into the water like butter over warm bread. Sometimes I would smell dust, and it would stop me in my tracks. Not the dust of cities, streets, but desert. Desert dust, clean, ancient, alive. I missed walking barefoot. I missed not knowing what tomorrow's was. I missed being no one, just a boy with sand between his fingers and secrets in his eyes. And though I smiled in court, though I bowed and made decisions, a part of me stayed behind at the edge of that canal. Knees met, head tilted toward the sun, because you don't truly leave a place that raised your soul. You carry it in your bones, in your breath, in the way your heart sleuth when someone's mentions wheat or honey or silence. And even now, all these years later, when I break bread in golden halls, something feels wrong. It's too soft, too refined, too quiet. I miss the rough edges, the cracks of stone beneath the dew. I miss the heat. I miss the hunger, not for food, but for being, for belonging. And when I walk past fountains, I look into the water, and I beg it, change color, like before, please. But it never does, because magic, true magic, doesn't follow men in robes. It follows barefoot boys who run without reason toward wonder. And I was that boy once, the boy who still lives by the canal. Some nights I light no lamps. I let the darkness speak, and in that hush I hear the wind again, not from this place, but from the dunes. I sit on my cold marble floor, close my eyes, and in seconds I'm there again. The heat, the cold and silence, the scent of dates, trees, swaying over water, sound of my childhood, running barefoot through dust. I see my younger self. He doesn't wave. He doesn't need to. He just smiles, as if he knows I never really left. And in that quiet, I speak to him, not with words, but with ache. I remember you, I whisper, and I miss who we were, before titles, before duty, before forgetting become survival. He nods. Take another bite of that stone-cooked bread. Lets the honey drip down his fingers and laughs. Oh, that laugh. It was freedom. It was fire. It was mine once. Now when the world asks for speeches, I give them silence, because my loudest truth was never meant to thrones. I was meant for the breeze between date trees, for the steam rising from cracked feet, for that mystical water that changed color as my dreams did. I never returned to that village, but in a way, it never let me go. It visited me, and it still visits me. Yeah, it's true. In scent, in shadows, in moments when my eyes blur, not from pain, but from memory. It reminds me that no matter how far I walk, no matter how heavy my name becomes, there's a place where I'm just a boy with dust on his feet, hope in his lung, and nothing to prove to anyone. That boy still runs inside me, barefoot, laughing, dodging sunlights, chasing reflections. And when I break my fast in silence, when I touch warm bread with my fingers, when I taste honey that clings like prayer, I close my eyes and I'm home. Because home isn't a place, and home isn't a palace. It's not a name. It's not even a place. Home is a moment, a feeling, a memory that whispers, "You were loved here," without needing to earn it. And in that whisper, underneath all I have become, I still hear the boy by the water, waiting for me to return.
Whispers of the Desert, my childhood kingdom. This poem is a return, not to a place, but to a feeling. It follows the story of a prince who once lived in a quiet desert, a desert village far from the noise of the world. In that forgotten corner of the earth, his soul was raised by silence, sun, and the simplicity of life. The afternoons were long, sacred, and silent. The days too hot to move, but blessed to rush. Meals were made of stone-cooked bread and honey. Not just food, but love in its purest form. And when the world slept, the children of the village would rise, wild and free. They would run to the magical canal that shimmered with the changing light. That water, the date trees, the cool soil, they were not just nature. They were a hidden heaven. As the boy grew older, the world called him away into halls of power, into rules and names he never asked for. But no matter how far he went, a part of him always remained behind, by the water, under the date trees, in the warm silence of childhood. This poem is a tribute to that place and to the boy who still lives there, because some homes are not places, they are memories, and some kingdoms are not built by men, they are made of bread, water, sunlight, and love. Thank you for watching. Keep watching The Desert Voice.